to have the ability to control darkness at will, engulfing objects and making them disappear. Although the principle behind this...
She has the Yami Yami no Mi?
Later, in the void.
What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Savvy, and welcome back to the Savvy Show. And in today's episode, I might be wrong, but I feel like we got our first Japanese SCP on our hands. This SCP is SCP-835-JP. Keteru Yamiko. So I hope I pronounced the name of this SCP correctly. However, the JP, I feel that means Japan. I could be wrong, but I'm assuming the dash means Japan because I remember we covered another SCP, which was the Boogeyman, and it was his number dash abbreviations to like wherever that SCP resided, wherever the creator made the SCP. So I'm assuming the creator is a Japanese person or made in Japan. So yeah, that's why I came up to that conclusion. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section below. But anyway, this SCP surface level seems pretty cool. Looks like some kind of, badass schoolgirl. She's in the school uniform, so we shall see what she's all about. I'm sure it's going to be a juicy one. So with that all out the way, if you guys are excited for this reaction, please remember to smash that like button if you do enjoy the reaction along the way. And also let me know what you guys expect from this SCP, and if you guys hyped to see what this is all about in the comment section below. And also remember to turn on post notifications so you do not miss an upload, because YouTube doesn't let you know even if you're subbed. And with that being said, if you're not even subbed, yo, you skipped a few boxes you needed to check off, guys. Smash that button and stay plugged if you're not part of the family. I make content like this daily for you guys, so you always get your fix of SCP heat. And if you enjoy my reaction style, you enjoy SCP content, this is the best channel to be. I'm telling you guys, hands down. Have a good time with the fam. Let's keep it pushing together. So, with that all out the way, remember, special shout out to SCP Animated Tales of the Foundation. Yo, bringing this SCP for us today so I can react to. So, with that all out the way, without any further ado, let's get this show started. Alrighty, SCP-835-JP, Keteru Yamiko.
SCP Foundation, Site 18, the dead of night. A lonely Foundation scientist makes his way to his office to leave for the day.
Okay.
Little does he know that tonight he will cross paths with what was a most deadly SCP, able to teleport from dark corner to dark corner like a deadly whisper.
Teleportation, yo, I was waiting for the time we get SCP that could do shit like that. It reminds me of the X-Men Nightcrawler. If it's something like that, this is gonna be badass, bro. Yo, I'm hyped.
All that was left in her wake was blood. Hello, I am Dr. Buck, and today we will be reviewing SCP-835-JP, otherwise known as Keteru Yamiko.
Keteru Yamiko. I got the last name correctly. First name kind of close, but maybe she's pronouncing it wrong. Who knows? Savvy can't be wrong, right? Come on now.
Initially identified as a Keter, SCP-835-JP is now classified as, well, we'll get into that later in this presentation.
Wait, let me rewind that real quick. Hold up. What did you just say she was?
Cool. Initially identified as a Keter, SCP-835-JP is now classified as, well, we'll get into that later in this presentation.
So you can't go up from Keter unless you're a Thymule class. And I doubt the SCP Foundation is using whatever she has to, to be a necessity, or she's not, capturing or trapping other SCPs. So there's no way she's a Thymule class from that. So it's either she might be deceased, or they must have neutralized her, because she wouldn't be going down a class unless they took away her teleportation. Because I'm assuming she's a Keter class off the rip, because she could teleport out of anywhere. Like, I don't even know how they captured her. But yo, what happened to her?
Hey everyone, this week's SCP animated video is sponsored by...
I had to skip that for the fam, guys. You all know me. I'm one for the heat. Not ads.
Due to its nature, containment of SCP-835-JP is currently impossible.
Whoa.
In the event of a suspicious death of a Foundation employee allegedly involved with this object, Mobile Task Force Q3 Bonfire is to cordon off the crime scene and investigate. It is recommended that the deaths be disguised as unrelated incidents whenever possible, with consideration for the morale impact on surrounding personnel.
Hold up, this was interesting because it doesn't seem like what I thought beforehand. From just a little bit that we saw that she was within the shadows when she had that knife and stabbed that dude. And then we see now, I'm assuming this little like thing jumping is the SCP itself. And it looked like it was jumping the shadow to shadow.
Currently impossible. In the event of a suspicious death of a Foundation employee allegedly...
Yeah, just jump to another shadow. Is that part of her power? She needs to teleport within the shadows? That would make more sense, because if it's just teleportation completely, how are you going to capture that? So, that is interesting. I'm assuming that's the shadows play a part with her abilities. That's a small thing. I'm pretty sure that might be a big thing for her.
Involved with this object, Mobile Task Force Q3 Bonfire is to cordon off the crime scene and investigate. It is recommended that the deaths be disguised as unrelated incidents whenever possible, with consideration for the morale impact on surrounding personnel.
Yep.
SCP-835-JP is often described as a teenaged girl named Keteru Yamiko that possesses long black hair and wears black school uniforms. On some occasions, the description of her age and appearance may increase or decrease by about 10 years. Keteru Yamiko is almost universally characterized as attractive. Date is often portrayed as melancholic due to her taciturnity. She avoids being seen at all costs, hiding in the shadows. Keteru Yamiko can teleport from one dark area to another, regardless of distance or obstructions. She utilizes this ability to approach, attack, and kill targets quickly, with a large kitchen knife in her possession.
I was right. So she's teleporting through... I assume shadows, dark areas, I mean, that's the same thing, right? So, yeah, that should be the same thing. So, that's interesting. She's not as broken as what it seemed like on surface level, so that's cool.
She is also said to have the ability to control darkness at will, engulfing objects and making them disappear. Although the principle behind it...
She has the Yami Yami no Mi? Bro, y'all know what I'm talking about. If you guys are One Piece fans, this girl got the Yami Yami no Mi. She ate a devil fruit, bro. Like, what? Let's hear that one more time. Holy shit.
To approach, attack, and kill targets quickly with a large kitchen knife in her possession. She is also said to have the ability to control darkness at will, engulfing objects and making them disappear. Although the principle behind this is unknown.
She's a devil fruit user.
Due to her abilities, she was kidnapped and raised as an assassin by a group of interests that is hostile to the Foundation. And it is believed that this is how her current personality was formed.
Hint, hint, the Chaos Insurgency. Yo, ho, ho, bro. Yo, that would be crazy. That would be crazy.
SCP-835-JP was originally a phenomenon that occurred only to the Foundation personnel, first identified in 1995. The phenomenon occurs in a cycle of about 1 to 3 months. The subjects who encounter it disappear in a matter of seconds, usually with a large amount of blood left behind. No subject, dead or alive, has ever been rediscovered.
Bro.
Investigations have confirmed the subjects were fatally injured prior to their disappearance. There are no significant common features of SCP-835-JP in terms of subject, time, or location, except that the victim is invariably a Foundation employee, and the scene is in a dark place with poor visibility. Occurrence has been confirmed in alleys at night, dimly lit stairwells, photo labs, shadows under desks, etc. Due to its unpredictability, suddenness, and the fact that the victims disappear without exception, no experimental observations of this phenomenon have been successful, and the details remain unknown to date.
I low-key, no, not even low-key, I high-key want to find out more about her controlling the darkness aspect of her powers. I can understand the teleportation, but her controlling darkness by sheer will alone, what does that entail completely? I'm so fascinated to see that part of her, because she seems pretty broken now. I literally thought she wasn't going to be that broken because she's limited to shadows or dark areas to teleport. But now that she could bend darkness with her will alone, like she could change anything to shadows then with that logic, right? So, or anything to a dark place. Oh man, this is really cool.
Based on the limited information obtained from the testimonies of witnesses who were present at the scene, as well as surveillance video footage, it is also known that the victims acted as if they were being attacked by some imperceptible entity. However, the existence of the attacker has never been corroborated.
Okay, one incident.
Several years later, a booklet with a hand-drawn anime-style girl titled Artist's Impression of
Oh, God.
SCP-835-JP was
Impressions?
found on the desk of research assistant Edwards.
Is this a creator?
After reviewing the contents of the booklet on the spot, it was discovered that the character in question had been given the name Keteru Yamiko, along with a set of attributes such as personality, origins, and abilities.
I was literally just making a joke saying, was that the creator of this SCP? Like, no cap, is this really the person that made this SCP within this SCP animation? Yo, I'm blown.
The booklet was submitted to head researcher Ken on the same day. This led to the following conversation. What made you create Keteru Yamiko in association with SCP-835-JP?
Boredom, I guess. I don't have much to do except wait for the machines to process the data.
Wait, I'm so confused, guys. How is this person talking to someone about the creation of SCP like she already knows, like she broke the fourth wall knowing that SCPs are created by people like us, like humans? It seems like she's literally breaking the fourth wall, asking him, why did he create this SCP, knowing that SCPs are created? Unless within the story of this SCP, there's a person that created this SCP that the author put in the story, and she is saying why. Like, this somehow, some way, this SCP was created within, like, the creator story. Hope you guys are following what I'm saying. I hope I'm not confusing, but that's where I'm coming from, because, like, that shit wouldn't make sense if it's not that. Because how would she know? Yo, what?
Downtime here.
How very diligent. But you didn't answer my question.
Listen, I know it sounds stupid,
Listen.
but waiting for data to come in on some murder monster, I don't know. Sometimes it just helps to think of these things as a bit more normal, you know?
And normal to you is an anime schoolgirl with a knife?
Compared to most of the things here in the Foundation, yeah, I'd say so.
Got a point.
Is this character, Keteru Yamiko, based on a previously established intellectual property? Perhaps an anime series or manga?
I mean, it's kind of taken from several. It's a bit of a cliche, right? Killer schoolgirl, black hair, huge knife.
And drawing this fictionalized version of SCP-835-JP helps you cope with its existence?
It's something I can imagine, at least. Otherwise, it could be anything. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Interesting. I see here that you even wrote a backstory for it. You do know this could potentially cause a memetic hazard. Our
What?
research into SCP-835-JP has been spotty at best.
I was just goofing around. I don't really see what the big deal is.
Several SCPs are affected or even manifested by our collective perception of them. In these cases, fiction and reality are constantly intertwined.
What? That's a thing? Has that been a thing? Or is this just part of this SCP story? That the people from the agency, SCP Foundation, knows that if people create SCPs within these animations, it could come to real life. Wait, I need to hear this one more time. Please, guys, help me out with this. Make this make sense for me. Because if this was a constant thing, why are we just finding this out in an animation right now?
You know the devil you don't.
Interesting. I see here that you even wrote a backstory for it. You do know this could potentially cause a memetic hazard. Our research into SCP-835-JP has been spotty at best.
I was just goofing around. I don't really see what the big deal is.
This part.
Several SCPs are affected or even manifested by our collective perception of them.
Affected or manifested. So they would know most SCPs are manifested by individuals which are like other humans. Was that always a thing that they knew about in the Foundation? Because I always thought SCPs, they thought it was just random anomalies that just happened and they just have to contain it. Never once did I think that they knew where these are coming from, which is us making these SCPs. How would they know about that? That's literally like breaking the fourth. What? Okay, let's just keep it going.
In these cases, fiction and reality are constantly intertwined. If word of this Keteru Yamiko gets out, who knows what could happen?
I didn't realize. I'm sorry.
Wow. And he said you didn't realize, so I guess she has some intel that no one else knew about.
Since Incident 835, the phenomenon continued to stay inactive, defying its previous 1 to 3 month attack pattern. Due to this prolonged inactivity, it was speculated that the anomaly was influenced by the perceptions of the Foundation personnel. Dr. Sanders recommended and received approval to implement Protocol Idol 835, with the goal of embedding a shared perception of SCP-835-JP in the Foundation personnel.
So that makes sense, but she just said now that this SCP gets affected by, like, you know, thoughts and everything. However, earlier she was basically saying that SCPs as a whole are sometimes manifested or changed. She wasn't just referring to just this SCP, which would have made sense, but she was referring as a whole, like SCPs. Yo, this is kind of wonky. It's not fault. I'm not tracking it completely.
The Foundation opted to continue using Research Assistant Edwards' character, Keteru Yamiko, as basis for Protocol Idol 835, which was already acknowledged by a significant number of personnel and proven to be at least somewhat effective at warding after SCP-835-JP. The importance of smooth and immediate transmission of information was pivotal. Its components were as follows. Firstly, all documents and information referring to SCP-835-JP were revised to make it easier for the viewers to associate them with Keteru Yamiko by including a detailed setting and replacing the object's designation number with a unique name.
That's just so crazy. Like, within this SCP, it's like they make it seem like they know the creator that made this SCP, and they're trying to change certain attributes of the SCP. Like, they could do that within a story. Like, did the creator purposely make this SCP have this attribute with it, along with, you know, making it in the story that another person created this SCP and the SCP Foundation is aware about it? Because this is like kind of weird. How would they know? How would they know that this is created by like someone from another reality? Like, how would she know? Is she like a reality bender? Like, this is one reality, and then there's our reality of us making these SCPs. And how would she know about us making SCPs? I think I might be missing something because I'm really confused.
In addition, as part of a publicity campaign for staff, a large number of public relations magazines, supplies, common items printed with the character visual of Keteru Yamiko, which was designed by the Foundation illustrators, were widely disseminated at the facilities. Fictional novels, manga, animations with Keteru Yamiko as the main character were produced in sequence, and their viewing was recommended. Through these efforts, the Foundation has succeeded in making all personnel share the recognition of SCP-835-JP Keteru Yamiko in a matter of months, and no activation of the object has been reported since. Although these publicity campaigns are currently being scaled down, items featuring Keteru Yamiko remain in various facilities in order to maintain a certain level of recognition. The Foundation regularly organizes creative sessions based on the theme of Keteru Yamiko.
So if you do this, the SCP won't get activated. Like, she will just not like kill, or she won't be a thing anymore because you're giving her recognition. Am I just missing this? Am I missing something from this animation? Why?
The last known sighting of SCP-835 occurred at Site 18, a small outpost in the Pacific Ocean. In accordance with set standard operating procedures, Foundation personnel were sent out to manage the Site 18's reaction to the death.
Okay. Yeah, let's see this.
Can you describe your experience with Keteru Yamiko?
Well, I've been briefed on 835, Keteru before. I know of the comics or whatever, but I never paid them much mind.
Those sessions are extremely important. Only by actively participating in them are we to eradicate this menace.
I know, but I never thought she would show up here of all places. Neither did Dr. Nelson, to be honest.
Let's start at the beginning. Now, according to our data, Dr. Nelson entered the security hallway at 21:35 to leave for the night. Is this correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I watch every person come and leave.
Okay.
We waved at each other, like we always do. Or did.
Then what happened?
The lights started to flicker. The wiring in Site 18 has always been spotty. We joked that instead of fixing it, they just classify it an SCP.
Please try to stick to the events leading up to the attack.
Y'all funny.
Right, sorry, Doctor. Anyway, he walked out of my view. I watched him on my monitor as he was about to exit. Then he saw something in the shadows and stopped.
Uh-oh.
What was it?
It was hard to tell, but he was staring right at it. It was like something was bubbling in the shadows. Then suddenly, I saw her.
Keteru Yamiko.
Yeah, it was like an optical illusion. She just popped into focus. But she wasn't like what she was in the manga. She looked tired.
What do you mean? Did she look old?
No, not old. She looked like she was on autopilot. Anybody who has read the manga always said she was this big goofball.
Well, really, she's only like that in the training videos. In the manga, she's got a reason to be so goofy. See, she has a... I'm sorry.
What?
That's not important.
Yeah, it's not.
What
Stick to the-
happened after she appeared?
The camera feed cut out. When it came back, Dr. Nelson was gone. Keteru Yamiko was alone, standing in whatever was left of him. It was creepy. She just faded away after that.
Now, this Dr. Nelson, I assume he was briefed on Keteru Yamiko? Surely he had participated in some of her related events. He was a level 3 after all.
Yeah, he was the guy that organized them. He was a big fan of the whole thing. Even had a special pop of her made for his desk. Said it was for training purposes.
That should be in his personal effects. Why do you think she came after him?
Yeah.
How would I know? Aren't you supposed to be the expert?
Well,
For real.
you knew, Dr. Nelson. Why would she single him out?
I don't know. Maybe she was visiting her biggest fan or something.
Man, this is so confusing.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
I don't think you'll be seeing her again. There was something about the way she looked that makes me think she's done with being what we've made her into.
What we made her into? So this must be part of this SCP, honestly. I think the author made this SCP this way, and it's not that these people within the SCP Foundation knows about, what's going on outside of their own reality. It's not. I don't think they're breaking the fourth wall. I think this is just another layer of this SCP that the people within the SCP's universe could shape-shift this SCP in the way where it's beneficial to them, which I'm still confused about, honestly, but I guess that's the case because I can't believe they're breaking the fourth wall, and I don't think they are.
Noted. But the videotape we've recovered has no appearance of her.
Typical. I know what I saw, though.
Dang.
And I believe you. We must always stay vigilant for Keteru Yamiko.
Is that over? Is that all we get?
SCP-835-JP
thank you.
is probably a manifestation of the instinctive fear that something threatening oneself may be lurking in the darkness. But the imaginary monster we once feared has now been reduced to a cliched character with Protocol Item 835.
SCP-835
So it was a character that we're just using to conjure. Like, it's like, is this SCP supposed to be like the embodiment of fear, and the Keteru Yamiko is just like the avatar that we will picture that image with, that we will picture fear being that image, hence Kimiko Yamiko? Is that the case?
JP Keteru Yamiko has been neutralized by Protocol Idol 835. The
Neutralized?
possibility of strengthening containment by expanding the scope of the protocol outside the Foundation is currently being studied in order to prepare for potential containment breaches that could result from a major cognitohazard or similar incidents within the Foundation.
So she's neutralized but not neutralized, because she could come back. This reminds me of like a Nightmare on Elm Street Freddy Krueger. Like, if you think about him, he gets stronger, but if you don't, then like he's weak and he can't really harm you. I feel like that's the case right now, which is like, I'm so confused. Now I know what she was talking about when she was like, she's a Keter, but now we'll just get into that. Like, even she was confused in the beginning. What the heck?
While Keteru Yamiko is designated safe, we are still unsure about how she manifested in the first place. Further research into the phenomena of SCP-835-JP has stalled, as no new data has presented itself.
So she's safe now.
Armed with the knowledge from this presentation, we hope that you will continue to think of SCP-835-JP as just Keteru Yamiko.
Is that over? I'm assuming it's over. That was a doozy, guys. That was the biggest doozy I had in a while. So I'm assuming it's kind of like, you know, like Freddy Krueger. That's what this SCP is about. I wish we could find out more about her controlling like darkness as a whole. Is that part of like her being, you know, fear itself? Like what's lurking within like the dark corners and stuff? Like that feeling you get when you feel like someone's behind you in a dark alley, or like when you run up the stairs when you turn off the lights downstairs and you look back and you have that feeling like someone's watching you or seeing you. Is that feeling Kimiko Yamiko? Is that her? Like, if that's the case, that would make sense, because like that would be a powerful thing, and for that to be a SCP, and this is just what we would like imagine the SCP being. That's really deeper than I thought this SCP would be on surface level. And yo, this, but if anything, this SCP had me thinking, man. This was a cool animation. And if you enjoyed this reaction, please let me know by smashing that like button. It will mean the world, and it takes less than a second, guys. You'll be helping the channel out a lot too. And just let me know what you guys think about this SCP in the comment section below. And with that being said, turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload. And unfortunately, that concludes today's episode. However, I'll catch you guys on the next one.